It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
Here's a Facebook question, Brian. This is from Rena. So Rena said, what's the goal of investing for someone who has a pension? Or is 25% still the number? So we get this all the time. Hey, okay, guys, I hear you talk about 25%. I hear it. But I'm one of that rare few that has a pension. How should that change or reframe my thinking?
Yeah, I mean, if you have it doesn't change it a ton. I mean, because I think pensions are powerful for your retirement in the fact that twofold. If you know, a lot of times you might have the chance to roll it over, and they're going to tell you what your value of that account is. But for true pensions that get annuitized, you're going to be able to take whatever that amount is and compare it to your living expenses at retirement, reduce it by the pension, and then whatever the difference is, that's what you need from your other assets for retirement and financial independence. That's pretty powerful. But I'm assuming, since Rena's asking this question, let's come back to your 20s, 30s, or 40s and retirement's decades in the future. What happens with how you're saving on a monthly basis? It's not uncommon, because you know our goal is, especially in light of what we talked about on today's show, to save 25% of your gross income. You're like, well, what happens when I have this pension? So if you go and look at the funding for your pension, it usually comes in two components. Your employer is going to make you do a portion out of your paycheck, might be between 4 to 8%. And then typically your employer, who's providing the pension, will also have a contribution. And that number might be between 6 to 8%.
Sure.
So if your household income is less than $200,000, I want you to take all of it. So if you're giving 4% and your employer is giving 6%, you know that 10% of your 25% is being funded directly by the pension. So you only have to save 15% of your income to check the box on, am I saving 25% of my gross income? Now, if your income as a household is greater than $200,000, I don't want you to count the employer portion. So that means you might only have 6% coverage. So that means you need to come up with the other 19%. If you're asking why the $200,000 number, that's because the higher your income is, and probably the higher your living expenses, and the further you are from the social safety net of Social Security and the benefit that this pension is going to provide, you need to take that weight seriously and save extra. And that's why I don't want you to have to be leaning into your employer's contribution, because it's just not going to help you as much as you get away from the money that's going to be required in retirement.
Now, let's suppose you say, okay, I hear you guys, but I find that I can save 25%, right? Like, am I oversaving? Am I one of these people that you talked about in the show where you said, you know, hey, am I saving too much for retirement? Well, I would say, you know, if your relationships aren't struggling and you're still enjoying today and you don't have a problem knowing what are needs versus what are wants, and you still have the capacity to save 25%, what that allows you to do is when you have that pension, that safety net in the background, it's going to give you more options sooner. Basically, it's going to give you flexibility that your counterpart who doesn't have a pension will not have. So maybe instead of you working until 65, maybe you stop working at 55 or 50, because that 25% number allows you to get there. So I would say, so long as you're not over saving, it's not a bad thing. 25% is still a great number to shoot for.